What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the NFL preview show. We got the NFC West on deck, man. 49ers, they got to get right. They got to get right. It was a rough year last year. Rams on the come up, bringing back Stafford. We got the Cardinals, man. Cardinals, man. Somebody don't really know what's going on with the Cardinals. One of those teams that just kind of flies under the radar. And then you got the Seattle Seahawks, man, who have been, one of the more pretty good teams, one of the more steady teams in the NFL in recent seasons. But we're gonna preview that. We're gonna break everything down right after the intro. I'm NYG22, aka Unpopular Opinion Sports, with Big Pat Sports Talk and Coach Ed Gladney from Coach Ed's Amazing World of Sports. And this is the NFL All 32. Let's get it, baby.
Rising King, the Raisin Man.
All right. We're going to set it off with the Los Angeles Rams. Rams with Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford were 10-7 last season. And look, man, the Rams are one of the darlings, one of the favorites in the NFC. They've been one of the consistent teams. Of course, they did win the one Super Bowl, trying to get back there again. But what is it about this Rams team, man? They got them at 9.5. I kind of like that number, to be honest with you, man. But talk to me about the Rams, y'all, and what went on last year, and some of the things this team has to do in order to improve as we get into this preview. Because last year, I think they kind of flew under the radar just a little bit. Not a lot of teams was really thinking about the Rams as far as a Super Bowl contending team. Everybody was talking about the Eagles and the 49ers and, Detroit. But this Rams team, I picked them. Shout out, kudos to myself. But anyway, man, I did pick the Rams as one of my sleeper teams last year, and they proved me right. This year, not so much as a sleeper, one of the favorites actually in the NFC. But fellas, let's get into it, man. What is it about this Rams team that you seen last year, and what did they do well? Talk to me about what they did well and what was some of their strengths and weaknesses as we get into this preview, because I definitely want to break that down, man. Talk to me.
All right, so the Rams, man, last year, bro, they did some very good things, man, when it came to, making the playoffs. Like you said, last year, that's one of your sleeper teams last year, and they did very well when they actually got healthy. People forget that in the beginning of the season, man, they were injured. And when they started to get themselves together, they turned into a force, which I said they were going to be one of the most dangerous teams towards the end of the season when they started getting healthy. Their defensive line is very young and aggressive, with Verse and all those guys out there. They actually turned out to be very good without Aaron Donald last year. And then with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp and those receivers got healthy, man, they made a strong push into the playoffs and should have beat the Eagles. They should have beat the Eagles last year in the playoffs. But things happened down the stretch. Saquon Barkley helped them out, and they were eliminated in the divisional round. But this team, man, can be very scary if they are actually healthy. So this is why these previews are essential to what we need to see what these teams will be like this upcoming season. So, Coach, man, to elaborate on what I just said, man, telling them about the stats and everything, what they did.
Well, in terms of their points for last year, they scored 367, which was 20th in the league. Points against was 386, which was 17th in the league. The simple rating system was actually a minus 0.06, which was 16th, but the strength of schedule at 1.06 is at 1.06. Now, the team's total points score for the year again was 365. Total yards was 5,666, but the yards per play was at 5.4. They completed 367 yards on 559 attempts for 3,868 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. Rushing wise, they rushed 450 times for 1,765 yards. They hit 15 touchdowns, and their average per carry was 3.9. Now, in league rankings, their point totals was 20th. Their yards was 15th. Their pass yards was 10th. Pass defense was 16th. The interceptions was 17th. Rush yards was 24th. Rush touchdowns was 15th. And defensively, points scored was 17th. Yards was 26th. Their pass yards was 20th. Pass touchdowns is 26th. Interceptions is 12th. Rushing yards is 22nd. And rush touchdowns is 10th. Now, in terms of a player that I wanted to highlight, I'm going to talk about Matthew Stafford. He completed 340 passes in 517 attempts for a completion rate of 65.8. Because I switched it.
Go ahead and talk about Stafford.
Okay, Stafford and his totals. He completed 340 passes and 517 yards. Completion rate was 65.8. Yards was 3,762, 20 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions.
All right. And was there any other player, anything that you want to talk about with the Rams, what they did last season before we start moving on to what they did this previous off season?
No, I just focus on one player for each team. So,
okay.
Well, now let's get into, because I'm telling you, man, to be honest with you, I think the Rams need to improve on their defense. I like the pass rush, but look, man, they did lose one of the greatest players ever in Aaron Donald. So turnover is always key in the NFL. Let's see who they lost before we get into who they actually picked up. And one notable one, man, I got him on the screen, Mr. Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp no longer a Ram. He is now with the Seattle Seahawks. DeMarcus Lawrence went to the 49ers. So did Tyler Johnson, went to the Jets. So they lost 3 receivers. Jonah Jackson traded to the Bears. That's a key one right there, man. We always talk about the offensive line over here on this show. Edge Michael Hochik went to the Bills. Bobby Brown, the third. Bobby Brown went to the Panthers. And Christian Roseboom, also a Carolina Panther. But not a terrible list. Like I said, Cooper Kupp, the main one to me, because he was a staple in that offense 4 years, you know, during that Super Bowl run that they went on. But y'all talk to me, man. Y'all get into the trenches and get into the you know, the X's and O's, you know, more than I do. So talk to me about some of these guys and who are they gonna miss going into this next season.
You mentioned it, the guy that you had on the screen, Cooper Kupp. I think he's going to be the main guy that they're going to miss because he meant so much to that franchise. When they won the Super Bowl, he was a Triple Crown winner. That doesn't happen often, even though Jamar Chase did it this past year. I think before Cooper Kupp did it, I think Steve Smith did it like 12 years before Cooper Kupp did it. So I think Cooper Kupp is going to be the major loss for this team, not just because of his skill set, what he did on the field. It's just what he meant to that team. Like, he was one of the backbone players of that team, man. He developed himself into one of the best receivers in the league, and he did it with the Rams, and he was homegrown. So that's who I think is going to be, you know, one of the biggest loss for them this upcoming off season.
But Coach,
what you think?
What's your thoughts, man? Yeah, talk to him, man, about who could potentially be somebody that they miss in this Rams on this Rams team, because again, they was 10-7 last year. So, you know, a good team, you don't want to lose too many players. But talk to me about what your thoughts are.
Anytime you have a senior veteran quarterback, you need to make sure that he's well protected. And Jackson and Noble, to me, are the keys. You know, especially Jackson with the direct line for the defensive line right into his face. Now, if you didn't replace that, that's gonna be highlighted even more going forward during the regular season. So, you know, and you guys know me. You know, I always talk about the trenches. That's my biggest thing.
Yeah, most definitely. It all starts in the trenches, but the Rams are not just holding their hands and saying we ain't gonna do nothing. They're gonna go out there, man. They went out there and they made some moves, man. They made some major moves. Matthew Stafford, he was rumored to get traded to the Giants, rumored to get traded, you know, possibly to the Steelers and a couple other teams, but he ended up coming back to the Rams. They restructured the contract to pay him $44 million for the 2025 season. They went and got Jimmy Garoppolo, brought him back, I should say, to return on a 1-year deal to protect Matthew Stafford. I like what the Rams do here. You know, you got a quarterback, a little bit of an injury, you know, older guy, a little bit of an injury risk. You bring a solid backup, you know, to protect that quarterback. Ronnie Rivers is playing running back now. Who knew, man? Shout out to Miss Ronnie Rivers, but running back Ronnie Rivers agrees to terms on the deal, so they add some depth there. But the big one that I got on the screen right there, Mr. Davante Adams signing a 2-year deal for $46 million. They did make some moves in the trenches. DJ Humphries, Alaric Jackson, David Quisenberry, and Coleman Shelton. And Ahkello Witherspoon re-signed in the backfield there. I think that's key too. But who's gonna have the biggest impact here? Who's gonna have it? Because they got some re-signings and then they got some signings here. You know, I talked about Stafford, talked about Davante Adams. Coach, you talk about the offensive line a lot. They made a lot of moves there. But I'm gonna kick it over to Pat. Pat, talk to me about the moves the Rams made, man, and what's your thoughts on this?
The biggest move that they made was that man you was talking about, Davante Adams. A huge move for them. He can he replace what Cooper Kupp did over there last season with the Rams or the previous seasons? I still think he has a lot of juice in the tank, and I think he's the perfect guy to replace Cooper Kupp because they have similar styles. And I think Devontae Adams is actually a better route runner. But let's see if he can adjust to that system over there with the Rams, and let's see what he does, man. Him and Puka Nakau over there is going to be absolutely dynamite, and the tight ends that they have in that system that Sean McVay runs over there with the Rams. So I'm looking for Devontae Adams to have a bounce back season over there with the Rams, man, and actually turn into the number one target because Puka Nakua is going to be, in the slot, but the number one target on the outside. So we'll see what he does out there, man. But I think it's a great move for the Rams to get Devontae Adams in place of Cooper Kupp. What you think, Coach?
All right, you can go right to the slide that I have for you right there. And I'm in agreement with both of you guys talking about Devontae Adams. I mean, he brings the ability to run the total route tree, just like Pat highlighted. He has a great understanding of how to create separation against defenders. He's a sure handiness. He has an elite ability to read defensive coverages, which goes into, his route running. Now, these stats that I have here are from the Jets. He played 11 games with the Jets, started 11 games. He was targeted 114 times, 67 receptions, 854 yards, 7 touchdowns, 12.7 average, and his for yards per game. His reception per games are 6.1, and his yards per game is 77.6.
So, yeah, I definitely
not bad.
yeah, that's not bad for only 11 games, man. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Play with the Jets too.
Yeah, imagine what he could do with the Rams this upcoming season, man. Those targets are going to go up, and those yards and touchdowns are probably going to go up too. So I think that was a great addition for the Rams, man. Devontae Adams. And if you do want to go a little bit further, Puna Ford coming over, signed a 3-year deal. That was a good one. DJ Humphreys was a good signing.
Mm-hmm.
And bring about a kilo Witherspoon to help out that secondary.
Yeah,
was pretty good too. But what else did they do, NYG?
Yeah, man. I love talking about the draft, man. That's one of our favorite things over here on the Aboriginal Sports Network. Y'all hit that like button. Tight end Terrence Ferguson. The Rams did not have a first-round pick, so they starting off with a second-round pick. Tight end Terrence Ferguson, drafted number 46 overall out of Oregon. We're going to get into the depth chart here a little bit later, but giving Matthew Stafford a target here, I think, is key. You want to give him as many weapons as you can. He lost one of his favorite weapons in Cooper Kupp, despite, them signing Devontae Adams. I think getting a tight end to help him, over the middle is key here. Josiah Stewart, edge out of Michigan, drafted in the 3rd round. Rams trying to build up that defense. Jarquez Hunter, man. We spoke to Jarquez Hunter at the Senior Bowl, man. Shout out to him getting his opportunity. Drafted in the 4th round, running back out of Auburn. 5th round, Ty Hamilton, man. Ty Hamilton was one of my sleeper top 5 picks. If you watch my videos, man, Ohio State D tackle. Shout out to him. Paul Jr. The Rams have a unique way of getting these players with these unique names. Right. Shout out to Paul Jr., linebacker out of Mississippi, and then another one here, Kanata Mumfield out of Pittsburgh in the 7th round, wide receiver. So a couple targets there, couple weapons there for actually a lot of weapons there. They only took 2 defensive players for 3 for Matthew Stafford. But anyway, y'all get into it, man. which one of these guys, man, you think is gonna have the biggest impact in year one, and or which one of these guys is your favorite picks, man, here for the Rams?
One of my favorite picks is Mr. Terrence Ferguson, man, from the University of Oregon, the tight end. He's gonna pay big dividends for the Rams of this upcoming season. He fits their system perfectly. He's a bigger tight end that has sneaky speed, and I think him and Matthew Stafford are going to click very, very easily. Very easily, man. He's a big target in the red zone. He's a big target on those first downs that they normally get. You know, the Rams are one of those teams that, you know, they cut you. They cut you all the way down the field, man, with their passing game. And then Kyron Williams, when he gets the ball, he's super effective when he gets the ball. So this tight end, Ferguson, as long as he stays healthy, because they have tight ends that's there, but they don't stay healthy like Higbee, this guy can come in and fill that role easily. And I think he's easily going to be the best pick for the Rams out of the draft this season, man. Coach, what you think?
I agree with you in terms of Ferguson, you know, but the ones that I'm intrigued with is actually an interior defensive line with Hamilton and Stewart. I mean, you know, as the stat said, you know, they had problems in the run game, you know, being down into the lowest spectrum of the league. So, you know, you need to really solidify that run game, because if not, that's what teams are going to do. They're going to effectively attack you in the run game, which is also going to keep the ball away from Matthew Stafford and his weapons over there on offense. So Stewart, you know, at Michigan was a decent edge rusher, you know, so he's fundamentally sound, coached up right over there by our former DC for the New York Football Giants. So, you know, he understands the intrigues, the different aspects, you know, but he also understands the good fundamental. Don't forget, he played under Harbaugh, so, you know, he understands that. In Hamilton, you know, he's that type of defender that, you know what, he's a developmental guy to me for the NFL, but he has some skill set there that he can definitely help contribute to the Rams going forward. So, you know, I'm intrigued by those two defensive line guys.
Yeah, man, definitely. Like I said, Ty Hamilton was one of my top 5 D tackles, man, for our Giants coming into this draft. So definitely he was on my radar. And you know, Ferguson again got some targets from Matthew Stafford. Let's see who else they got, man. Let's take a look at the roster and let's see how they put it all together here, man. I know you guys are gonna give your breakdown and talk to me about how this Rams team is built and what they need to lean on and how they need to attack. You know, Coach, if you want to take the defense, Pat, you could take the offense, or however y'all want to do it. But to me, man, you know, I'm just unpopular opinion, man. You know, never mind me, man. No aficionado, but Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell, Matthew Stafford and them gonna be throwing that football. Kyron Williams, yeah, he's a good running back too, but you can also pass and use him in the passing game as well. It's gonna be a passing team. This offensive line, Arlick Jackson, left tackle, Rob Havenstein, right tackle, Kevin Dotson and Coleman Shelton and Steve Olivia in the interior. I don't know. Maybe they can hold up. We're going to take a look at the rest of the division and see how these other teams and these defenses look. But to me, that's one of the main things, offensive wise and defensive wise, man. Like Coach talked about it, man. Guys got to stop the run. But I'm gonna turn it over to y'all. Pat, what do they need to do on offense, man, to get where they need to go, man? Which is for them a Super Bowl.
Yeah, first and foremost, man, their offense is pretty doggone good. With Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell as the third receiver. Now, their offensive line, you got Arlick Jackson, Steve Avila, Coleman Shelton, Kevin Dotson, Havenstein is a pretty doggone good offensive line. They did protect Matthew Stafford last year pretty well down the stretch, so not worried about their offensive line either. And you got Kobe Parkinson, Tyler Higbee, and Terrence Ferguson at the tight end position, so they can line up in a different set this year. They can line up in big sets, further their run game and still be able to attack you down the field in the passing game. That's going to be essential to this Rams team. And Kyron Williams and Matthew Stafford, Pro Bowlers, both of them. Blake Corum and Jaquez Hunter can come in and do some of the same things Kyron Williams can do, just at a lesser level. But it's not like they're losing much when Kyron Williams goes to the bench. They're not like, oh my God, it's over with. The only concern I have with the Rams offense is depth when it comes to the receiver position. Who's going to step up? Is it Jordan Whittington? Is it Mumfield? Is it Mario Williams, True Edwards? Is it one of those guys, Xavier Smith? One of those guys are going to have to step up and play that Robinson role that Robinson did so well for them last year when he came into games. So that's what I'm thinking when it comes to this Rams offense. Coach, what you think when it comes to the defense? I think the Rams offense is going to be pretty good.
I agree with you on the offense. Defense, still a work in progress. I mean, now, you have some young talent. Braden Fisk, big, strong guy, definitely disruptive type of a player. When he gets going, he's definitely one of those players. Ford, just brought over. We're going to see how he fits in, on the second level. I mean, Jared Verts, coming off that edge, hustles, talks a lot out there on the field. So definitely one of those guys who, is a young developing player. Spates is a good linebacker. He's effective as long as you can keep him clean. On the back end, I definitely think Karen Kinchins is definitely going to be a leader in that backfield as they go along. The cornerbacks are still, developing, but they're decent. But again, if you look at the stats, if you look at the numbers, and a lot of these guys are returning. So this is the second year in the system together. So can they step it up? Then when you go to the second level, I mean, the draft picks are on. Most of their draft picks are right there in that second level. So that speaks volume also to the depth of the defense right there. So, you want to develop them, especially guys who are, later in the draft but have some ability. You want to see what they're able to do. You don't want to rely on them consistently, especially on the second level, as a collective group. You want to mix it in, to get mix them in with other veteran guys. So, that's, what I see with their defense is definitely they got to step up, because if their defense continues to be in the lowest spectrum of the league, no matter what you do offensively, the other team is just going to keep the ball away from you in the most part, get you frustrated, and who knows what will happen going from there.
Yeah, Coach. I'm a little concerned about their defense, but it's only because, I think they need a little more time, a little more seasoning. We'll see how the additions pan out this year, but I think with a little more seasoning, this Rams defense can be better. But can they be good enough this year to get to a Super Bowl? Let's take a look at the schedule and see. We're going to break it down for y'all. So, looking at it here, man. That's a rough stretch there to start. Man, ain't do y'all no favors. Houston, Tennessee, you at Philly. Get a break with Colts, but then you got San Francisco, Baltimore, Jacksonville, New Orleans, San Francisco again, Seattle, Tampa, Carolina, Arizona, Detroit, Seattle, Atlanta, Arizona. It's not terrible, but I think that first portion of it, you're gonna have to make it through. because Houston is a tough team. We talked about Tennessee in the AFC South preview. I think they're a sleeper team. Philly is the Super Bowl champs. You know, the Colts you can beat. Maybe you get one there. Then you got San Francisco and Baltimore. That's rough. You know, Jacksonville, New Orleans, and then you know you got your division. You gotta play your division, but Tampa, Carolina, Arizona, you can beat those teams. Detroit, we'll see. Then Seattle, Atlanta, Arizona, you can beat those teams too. 9.5, I'm still taking the over. I think the Rams could get 10, 11 games with this schedule. It's that first 7 games that concerns me. But what's your thoughts, man? Over under 9.5 here for the Rams.
Yeah, I'll put the over, especially if they can beat 2 of those 4 big teams in their first part of the schedule. They could beat 2 of those: Houston, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and San Francisco games, because San Francisco and them, they always play each other well. It doesn't matter what happens in that division, they always play each other well. But if they can win 2 or 3 of those big games in the first wave, then you get, you know, New Orleans, San Francisco again. I think they can beat Seattle twice this year. They can beat Tampa Bay. They can beat Carolina. They can beat Arizona at least once. And that Atlanta game, that may determine, you know, playoff seeding at the end of the year at that Atlanta game. But I got them over 9.5. I got them actually getting 10 games this year. What you got them doing, Coach?
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I'm thinking it's about over 9.5. Yeah, 10. You know, I'm going to see about 11. But the key for me is, like you said, the start. And then if it's a physical start, because Philadelphia, you know, is physical. Frisco, a division opponent, is always going to be physical. Baltimore is going to be physical. Look, we can't sleep on Tennessee, you know, because, you know, we did our review with them and we were like, okay, so.
Yeah, their roster is pretty good.
Houston is, you know, to start is a tough team. So my concern is, how do you come out of that stretch going into after the bye week, going into the rest of your schedule? Because you can't have any major losses. You just can't, you know, because, you know, as we just talked about the depth, you know, when you look at a lot of their second levels on offense and defense, going into that second half, and you got the bulk of your division games, something critical, it could change your whole season. So, but I'm with you guys, you know, 10, 11 games, yeah.
Yeah, man, most definitely. This Rams team, again, they've taken pretty much and kept their main components together, and that's their coach and their quarterback. You know, and we've seen coach quarterback combinations, you know, win Super Bowls, win multiple Super Bowls. I'd like to think that McVay is one of those coaches that, you know, transcends the game. And Matthew Stafford, I mean, he should go down as a Hall of Fame quarterback. You know, he's got a ring, so I think a team like the Rams could be one of those teams that people are not paying attention to, and they just boom. Next thing you know, they right there, NFC Championship game. You know, maybe going against the Eagles or Commanders, or we're gonna talk about the NFC. We just getting heated up here on the NFL on ABSN. But any last thoughts on the Rams, fellas, before we move on?
Nah, they're just not going to surprise anybody this year. But I think they're going to be a good team, and I think they're going to be over on the 9.5. I think they get 10 wins.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. You know, don't have anything extra, so you know the win total is about right.
All right. Well, we coming back. We getting into the Seattle Seahawks, man. Seattle Seahawks coming right back here, man. So y'all stay tuned.